Hello, buenos dias, and welcome. My name is Julia Krys, and today we have some terrific guests speaking with us. Fabiola Rodriguez, producer, and Shane Monpremier, lead actress from the new indie film Ludi, which premiered opening night of the Miami Film Festival and was in the South by Southwest Film Fest a couple weeks back, and will soon make its way to the Annapolis and Atlanta film festivals. Ludi depicts an exhausted healthcare worker's arduous efforts to send money back to loved ones in Haiti. The film was created by the Miami-based production company Bantify, and I'm currently interning at Bantify now. So we are hoping to give you a bit of an insider look with these two fantastic collaborators. So firstly, I want to check in with you both and ask, how are you doing, and how has the Ludi Film Festival press buzz been treating you so far?
Julia, I'll start. Thanks for having the both of us on the program. I am. I think to me it's very like heartwarming, and it's heartwarming, I guess, to see the responses. When it's either review or like we get like a note or someone someone posts on a blog. For the most part, the reception has been positive. So it's just really nice when folks take the time out of their day to share that feedback. So overall, I think I'm just in a place where I'm just delighted and excited by everything that's been happening.
Yeah, same. I think I'm just grateful for the story to be out there. And so just getting all that positive feedback is kind of like a plus. Like, oh, not only did we get the story out there, but people actually love it. Not like it, but love it. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so wonderful. And I've loved seeing so many positive reviews and positive reception. So the next thing I wanted to ask is that Fabiola was telling me that Shane, there are plenty of people in the press that are mispronouncing your name. So I wanted to get out here on the record for our listeners. I wanted to have you like say it for us so we can say it correctly.
Okay. My is Shane Monpremier. My last name is French. It's Haitian Creole French. I do understand that Monpremier might be hard to pronounce.
We're still going to get it.
Just have to practice.
Exactly, yeah.
Just have to practice. We can say Zach Galifianakis.
Exactly,
right?
Yes. That's a wonderful point. So, first question for both of you is, or second question, but what is your favorite moment from working on Ludi?
Okay,
I'll go first. Go first? Yeah.
Okay. My favorite moment, it's hard to choose, but I'm just gonna, the first two that come to mind. So in one of the sort of montages in the film, I'm holding this bag of groceries on top of my head and walking to my house. I normally don't carry groceries in this way. I don't carry anything in this way, right? Well, there was like a pack of water one time, but that's my favorite moment because when I was 15 years old in Haiti, I used to marvel at these women walking the streets who would have like huge sacks of potatoes and banana plantains and just really, really heavy, colossal things on top of their head, walking gracefully, basically floating down the street. And this was like a normal thing. So to have that little, just the one bag, it really made me feel like I was connected in some way. And I feel like that's just such a beautiful skill to have. So that was like a very nice moment for me, I would say. And then there was another one, I think in the jitney, in the jitney, right? The bus. Because growing up, I would always get on a jitney. It was cheaper than the metro bus. And they basically like stop anywhere. And there's just like this energy of the jitney that I felt like we really captured in the film. So I really, really liked that part as well.
That's beautiful. I love how you have so many like personal connections and memories that are connected to the film.
What I just like really like about the film is that, like, at least sort of from where I sit in the, in regards to the crew, it's like the small indies are usually are made out of like love. They're made out of like a different place in the heart. It's not just like, oh, I need to pay my mortgage, so I'll take that gig. Like everyone just sort of comes together to like make something happen. I always just really like that part. And I feel like you get that a lot more with like the indies. So I think that would be like my favorite moment.
Right. And that kind of takes me into my next question about Bantify in particular. So for those listening at home, Bantify is a indie film company that features Haitian, Caribbean, and Latinx narratives that are typically absent or misrepresented in the industry. So I'm wondering for you, Fabiola, what inspired you to pursue producing underrepresented narratives?
It's to me, it's so many reasons. I think, one, I always just love mass media and just the telling of stories and the helping creators tell their stories. And then I'm also like one of those types of people that I always like root for the underdog, right? Whether it's in sports or just in, in career or whatnot. And I think in the US, like that is like, these stories are misrepresented or are not being represented at all. So it's like, to me, it's like, if this is a way that I can help sort of tell these stories, sign me up. Um, yeah, I just think it's needed. It's needed now. It's always been needed, but it's definitely needed now even more so.
Right. I love that. I love I mean, that was something that was so appealing to me with working with Vantify and something that I feel like I don't want to take for granted because I know so much of the industry doesn't have those narratives and those stories at the forefront. So it's so special to have this experience with you all and to be following Ludi on the Ludi journey. So my next question is for Shane. And firstly, I just want to say it's great to finally meet you. I've been working with Bantify for a few months now, but I've seen the movie so many times. So I mean, I love now being able to have this conversation with you and to capture it in this moment. So I am currently an acting student actually, and I want to speak to you. Yeah, woohoo, acting. And I want to speak with you a bit about your artistic process. What did you initially connect with most about Ludi's character?
Well, first and foremost, she's Haitian, right? Haven't read many scripts where there is a Haitian character in it. Reading it, the first person I thought about was my own mother. As I'm sure you know, the writer and director wrote it with his mother in mind. But when I read it, I felt my mother in it. So immediately there's that connection there, right? And with feeling her, that means I feel the love, the fighting, the struggle. Like I already understand it. So it was pretty much like coasting from there. Because I think one of the hardest parts when you pick up a script is understanding the character. Like, who is this? Why do they do these things? What's the goal? What moves them? What are they trying to get? What do they need? But I already knew all those things. I didn't even have to ask myself. Like it was already in there. So yeah, connection was easy for this one.
Wow. I love to hear that because I think that's such a hurdle for some people I mean, just in acting in general, what's your in? So the fact that you really just had this immediate and strong connection is so, so beautiful. And I know that it read and it's so ingrained in the piece now. Whenever you watch it, people can feel that. And I think I have seen so much of that also in the press and in the reviews that that performance of yours was so strong and that connection was so strong. So I can't really imagine Ludi without without Shane and without like that energy.
Thank you.
I just
So
want to say that I agree with Julia. And Shane, I think it's interesting if all of us can sort of have a conversation that when you read it, you were thinking of your mother. Whereas when I read it, because I'm an immigrant. So when I read it, I was like, this is me, this is my sister as immigrants.
yeah,
Which also speaks to the writing, right? To be able to capture everyone's sort of story. That's
right.
yeah.
Yes, agreed. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And I had a also a special experience of watching it with my mother when it premiered virtually at the Miami Film Festival, and she loved it for that reason. And when we watched it, she started then telling me about these stories that like I hadn't been able to hear, like the fact that it has that effect of not only unearthing like Ludi's story and Edson's mom's story, but just so many more stories will come about just by like that action of bringing light to it. So my next question is for Fabiola. I've spoken to you a bit in the past, like through working with you, about the distinction in the work between working on a crew for someone else's project and the work that you've done with Ludi, and how you're in control and you're at the forefront. So I'm wondering, what have you enjoyed the most about this multifaceted role you've taken on with Ludi, especially since it is quite a small team?
So I'm one of those people, I enjoy like sort of having my hands in a lot of different areas. And I feel like that makes me like, it sort of gets the brain going in a fun way. Like you have this puzzle in front of you and you just have to like put all these pieces together. I, when I work on other people's projects, as a crew member, not to say that I get bored, but usually you have one task and then you do that one task to the best of your ability, and everyone adds to, everyone comes together and then makes it happen. But when you have the smaller team, you have to do different things and wear different hats. And that, this to me is just more exciting. It's more interesting. You get to like sort of harken back to like other industries or other like best practices from like, maybe other productions or other fields. So yeah, I just think it makes it more exciting, more fun. And I've always enjoyed that personally. I know there's some folks that wouldn't. They're like, no, I just want to do this. I just want to do that. But to me, it just sort of gets the brain going in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. And I've sensed that like since I've been on the team for the short amount of time. I know that Ludi has had such a life and like trajectory now that I'm just catching like the very end. But for the time that I've been with you, I can really like sense that sense of fun and engagement that everybody is, like you were saying before, so into it and having like that personal tie to it as well. So Shane, you have a singing credit for the movie as well as an acting credit, which is very fun with the song Ramplim. And my question for you is, does music play a role in your artistic process, and do you like connect with music or with like the singer side of yourself?
Ha! The singer side. I am not a singer. uh I will say that I was a little nervous about singing, but character first, right? Right? We got to put the story first, and she would sing, and I got over that hurdle. But to answer your question, music, period, is a very, very big part of my life in general. Like um I need music for the most intense things that I do. I need music to or I use music to steer my thoughts sometimes, to de-stress, to fold clothes, to, I don't know, think about my family. Like music has always been a big part of my life. And for characters or for roles, it helps me get into the world of the character. So specifically for Ludi, I had a playlist. What was it called? I think it was called Chaque jour toute la journée or something like that, which means every day, all day. I can't remember why I named it that. Probably because I was trying to say I need to listen to this every day, all day to make sure I'm steeped into her world. But it consisted of Haitian folk music, Haitian gospel music, and I think that song Remplim was also on the playlist. And what that does, as I'm sure you can guess, is I would listen to it in the car on the way to set, and it would kind of put me in like that space of Ludi. Like, this is what Ludi would listen to. And listening to the language also is kind of reinforces my ability to like come in and out of Creole or whatever. And yeah, just kind of like sets the tone, sets the vibe. So yeah, I'd say it's a very, very important.
I would have never guessed that you were nervous for that singing scene because you were really, I mean, belting it out. If I thought you were
Well,
feeling it.
also, it's because it was praise and worship too. Something happens to me when I listen to praise and worship. In that song, I grew up on praise and worship, religion, church, etc., etc. And the first few times I heard this song, singing it makes me emotional. Like, it's just so it's such a deep song. Like, it really speaks to me. And I think me closing my eyes during that, while I was singing it, kind of just, I was really singing it to God in that moment. Every time I sing it, I can never perform that song. I could never, or it's like, I'm speaking to God. It just so happened, happen to be singing, but it's such a deep song for me. I don't know. It gives me chills. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for hopefully some of our listeners today to go, and when they watch Ludi, they'll put the dots together because that's very telling and fitting for that moment to have that connection to the song. Yeah, and that connection to music in general. I love how also with the naming of it all day, every day, that, I mean, that's you getting into your process, getting into your character, but also that's Ludi's life. She's she's all day, every day. That's how she runs everything. So
exactly.
that's super appropriate naming. So the last question that I have for both of you too is kind of for our listeners at Mivos. And Mivos, the majority of our writers in our audience is made up of young women involved in or passionate about the arts. So I'm hoping to hear from you guys that as women in the industry, what is your greatest piece of advice for young women trying to break into the industry? Or like, what's something that you would want to tell your younger self if you could?
I'll start. Do not give up. Do not give up. You will be tempted so many times to give up. Do not give up. The world needs to hear your voice. Like, keep at it. There may be times where it gets dicey. Do not give up. Like, if you really feel deep down in your soul that this is what is meant for you, it is. And keep at it. That would be my advice.
Wow, I think like you just hyped me up, like giving that little speech. I hope everybody else feels the same.
Yes, that part, Fabiola. I 100% agree. My advice would be to be yourself. Be yourself. Be you. There's no one else like you. No one can offer what you have to offer. Because throughout my journey, you know, I feel like you're always going to be tempted to be like someone else. Like, you know, we have idols, we have people that we look up to, that we want to be like. We want our careers to reflect, to look like this person's, and oh my gosh, they got to do this, that, and the third, they got to work with so and so, blah, blah, blah. If you just be yourself and not try to be like anyone else, I promise you that you'll attract the things that you want and that you need. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and for your engagement in this interview. And for everybody listening at home, we'll have information at Mivos Media on how to stream and how to access Ludi. I believe that they're both, or the Annapolis and the Atlanta Film Festival may have virtual viewing opportunities, so that is not restricted on your current geographical location if you live in the US. So more details on that will be on the site. And just to finish off, I want to open it up to you two if you have any last remarks or I guess points, announcements, anything that you want to kind of finish off with.
And you probably may have this on the Mivos website, but we can send you guys the links, not the links, the social media accounts. So it's at Ludi Film on Instagram and Facebook, and then at Banify Films for Twitter.
Great. We'll get those follows in for sure. And be sure to keep Bantify in the loop of Mivos. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to those who have listened, and thank you to you two wonderful people. I'm so grateful to have been able to speak with you today and ask a bit more in-depth questions about both Bantify and Ludi.